We start today's show with a popular and powerful quote from Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We're going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. Begin the process of freedom today. Channel your energy to transform the negative thoughts that are hindering your progress into positive thoughts that will propel you to great heights. Hello, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Welcome to this Emancipation Day edition of Jamaica Magazine. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is up next with his Emancipation Day message.
We are able to celebrate our emancipation because our great forefathers struggled for justice and human rights. In this period, we come to terms with our past and define our future unchained. We recall the boldness of Nanny of the Maroons, the defiance of Paul Bogle, the strength and moral fortitude of Sam Sharp, who chose the gallows over slavery. We must hold true to the proud heritage they and others have given us. We're going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Others may free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. Those are the words of Marcus Garvey, immortalized in song by Bob Marley. Emancipation was not a gift. The end of slavery had economic considerations, no doubt, but more so, it was hastened by the unity of the oppressed in rebellion and supported by people of conscience. Slavery could only persist because the oppressors were able to divide us. Once there was unity and consensus emerged, freedom was inevitable. In 2009, we embarked on a formal process of consensus building called the Partnership for Transformation. The 2011 Partnership Code of Conduct and two successive social partnership agreements provided a framework for deepening the process of participatory decision-making and engendering trust and confidence through dialogue on the critical challenges facing us as a nation. The partnership agreement is between the government, opposition, private sector, trade unions, and civil society. This is a mechanism in which the opposition participates. It has been a very effective tool that we must not destroy. It is noteworthy that the previous partnership agreement focused on 4 areas of national importance: the country's debt and fiscal challenges, modernizing Jamaica's electricity infrastructure, improving the country's doing business climate, and improving public order, with a particular focus on reducing the murder rate. In the first 3 areas, debt, energy, and doing business, institutions in the form of the Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, the Electricity Sector Enterprise Team, ESET, and the National Competitiveness Council were established or modified to coordinate and monitor the national efforts associated with resolving these challenges. Each of these institutions transcended the change of administration in 2016 and the establishment of a new partnership agreement that takes us through to 2020. Jamaica has seen unprecedented success that has spanned the electoral cycle in these areas of national development. The one area that has seen the least sustained success is that of enhanced public order. This is the area on which we must now seek to build the consensus through partnership. We must build consensus on comprehensive measures to fight crime, address our at-risk youth, and improve conditions in our communities. There must be national support for increased, targeted government spending on these areas. The interventions made through zones of special operations have contributed to a reduction in crime. The ZOZO modality is working, and now it is the goal of the government to scale this up as rapidly as possible so that we can reclaim communities that are at risk and make Jamaica the safe place we know it can be. Just over 2 years ago, we launched the Housing Opportunity Production and Employment Program, HOPE. In this short period of time, HOPE has impacted the lives of nearly 28,000 youth across Jamaica through direct engagement in national service corps. HOPE is present and active within Zozo communities, as well as within areas with heightened security measures, working with security forces to find opportunities for our youth. We have established a new housing program under the housing component of HOPE, which will see to the provision of indigent housing with special emphasis on the physically challenged and other vulnerable persons in selected communities. Relocation of communities which are located in areas unsuitable for living and which are susceptible to natural disasters will also be addressed under this component of HOPE. This program will also enhance the impact of Zozos in targeted areas, including tenement yards or big yards, where the physical infrastructure will be upgraded and the status of residents regularized. Where there is life, there is hope. The HOPE program seeks to empower and is indeed helping our people to excel. I believe there is general agreement around the social intervention aspects of addressing issues of law and order, public safety and security. However, we have not been able to develop consensus on the crime-fighting aspects of law, order, and security. I am confident, however, that it is within our collective will to use the institutions we have established, such as the National Partnership Council, and which have shown results in building consensus around national issues. In recent discussions with the National Partnership Council, there is agreement that there should be established an articulated and dedicated monitoring and reporting mechanism on law, order, and public safety rooted in the Council. In unity, we find strength. Those who struggled for our emancipation knew that it was important to pull together and not apart. This is the essence of our theme for Emancipendence: one nation, one people, united under God. Have a safe, peaceful, and blessed Emancipation Day.
Leader of the opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, reminds us never to take for granted our forefathers' fight for the abolition of slavery.
My fellow Jamaicans, as we celebrate the 181st anniversary of the abolition of plantation slavery, I greet you in the spirit of the freedom which emancipation brought. Even today, that freedom remains the most important possession for each of us. Emancipation Day is always a timely reminder that the freedom we celebrate today was won by the selfless, courageous struggle waged by our ancestors for over a century before we achieved full free. Even as we celebrate that freedom today, we know Jamaica has a far way to go in breaking the chains of economic and social inequalities that still persist and which still limit the opportunities available to many Jamaicans. A truly better Jamaica requires that we all come together with the passion and commitment to redouble our efforts to strike a definitive blow against inequality. That is how we will foster the conditions for progress and prosperity that benefit all and not just a few. To effectively address the increasing division of Jamaica as a country in which there are first-class and second-class citizens, we have to understand that the root of the problem is in our history. This is especially evident in the areas of education, in our health system, and in the area of land ownership. After emancipation, those who had enslaved our forefathers and mothers still retained political and economic power to keep them tied to their state as laborers. The key to this was to deny them access to land. Those who refused to live under the oppressive conditions of their estates were constantly harassed and became liable for arrest as so-called vagrants and so-called squatters. Denied legal access to land, many were forced to establish their own informal communities. Land and access to land thus became the centerpiece of the struggle for economic freedom and progress. The Morant Bay Rebellion of 1865 was a pivotal effort by the newly freed to get land and social justice. And as we all know, this rebellion was put down with brutal force by the British colonial authorities. The Labor Rebellion of 1938 launched our people into a new phase in the fight for emancipation from mental slavery and set us on the path to the achievement of universal adult suffrage and self-government and ultimately independence. However, despite this progress, the majority of Jamaicans remained landless and as a result, economically marginalized. That is why land ownership for the majority is a critical factor to be unlocked for the inclusive growth and development that all Jamaicans deserve. This issue of land and the proper management of the environment are at the heart of the current concerns in the cockpit country, where citizens are now resisting the possibility of mining in an area which is arguably Jamaica's most important environmental asset. We must all stand with the residents of the cockpit country in their fight to maintain the natural and environmental integrity of their community. The cockpit country represents Jamaica's most important water resource. Over the decades of independence, successive administrations have implemented programs to make land available to the people for agricultural production and to ameliorate squatting. These programs include land titling, land reform, the Land Bonds Law, Operation Grow, Sites and Services, Operation Pride, and of course, the National Housing Trust. Yet, despite this wide range of initiatives and successful implementation for the most part, an estimated 700,000 of our brothers and sisters are still called squatters in a free Jamaica. Today, this legacy of plantation slavery is still evident in the deep divisions within the society and in the gap that persists between the minority at the top and the growing number of Jamaicans that exist on the margins of society. Until our farmers have access to the best farming lands and a title to use as collateral to secure finance, and until families have a home to nurture their children, Jamaica will never experience social stability and inclusive prosperity, which is the dream of all Jamaicans. We cannot make the progress we should with so many of our fellow Jamaicans left behind and excluded from the basic necessities of life. One of my first initiatives as president of the People's National Party was to establish the National Land Ownership Commission, chaired by noted attorney at law Norman Minot, to recommend radical and effective strategies, systems, and mechanisms to significantly improve and facilitate legal ownership of land and to ultimately eliminate squatting from Jamaica's national landscape. The report confirms that this is a very practical and doable objective, and we will take the recommended solutions across the country in a series of national consultations. We are committed to a truly national effort to ensure that every Jamaican family will have a home and a stake in the land of their birth. Let us recall on this Emancipation Day the fight for better education, access to land, and the drive for economic growth that is at the foundation of our quest today for a better Jamaica of equality, development, and social justice. I wish for you all a happy, safe, and reflective Emancipation Day. May God continue to bless you and your family, and bless our country, Jamaica, land we love.
Jamaica, I can help you protect our citizens.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicai.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
Up next, measures by the Urban Development Corporation to protect the country's natural resources.
Environmental management and monitoring are core responsibilities the Urban Development Corporation UDC carries out in protected areas in Negril, Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, Hellshire Hills, part of Portland Bight, Port Royal, and Palisadoes. As such, the corporation is committed to mitigating negative impacts on our natural resources through monitoring and enforcement by 6 environmental protection officers.
When we speak about natural resources, the simplest thing to think about is the environment and everything that it entails. So the plants, the animals, we're looking at the soil, the water, all different aspects of it that all interrelate, and also how the people interact with it.
To reinforce its conservation measures, the UDC carries out sound environmental planning and monitoring, management of protected areas, as well as environmental education and outreach programs.
So we carry out monitoring either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. This gives us an idea of what the impact of anything that we're doing to the natural resources.
Some of these interventions involve bringing internal and external stakeholders together to carry out various activities to commemorate days that bring awareness to different areas of the environment.
Our largest activity to date has been International Coastal Cleanup Day. We have it in Hellshire, and we did collect a substantial amount of plastics and other garbage.
The conservation program is also extended to the critically endangered sea turtles.
So in St. Anne's in particular, we have started a program of monitoring the nests, seeing when they occur, ensuring that they're safeguarded while they're there, and then enable the hatchlings to be able to return to sea. So far in the last 3 years, we've had a very successful program. We've had over 2,000 hawkbill turtles returning to the sea.
A similar program is being carried out with the Jamaican iguana, another endangered species that is found in the Hellshire Hills area.
Young hatchlings are carried to the Hope Zoo, which they are nurtured until they get to a certain size and weight, and then they are returned to the wild. This is supposed to give them a competitive advantage against predators.
And did you know?
At the Green Grotto Caves, we actually have 11 out of the 21 species of bat that are found in Jamaica. So what we do is monitor the caves to ensure that the habitat is safe and suitable for the bats.
We also monitor to see what's going on with the crocodile. So for now, we look at the nest, we also look at the birds that are around, and to see how everybody is doing. So it's like we have a big ecosystem.
NEPA delegated the UDC with management authority over the Hellshire Hills in 1999, so that's another way in which we collaborate, and most recently an MOU to develop the Goat Islands.
Since then, the corporation has been working with stakeholders and other users of the area to carefully balance the development of urban settlements with the delicate ecology of the area.
For our non-governmental partners, one of our major partners is CCAM, which is the Caribbean Coastal Area Management Foundation. And with them, we partner in managing the Portland Bight area, which is the largest protected area in Jamaica.
I'd urge persons who are visiting and living within the boundaries of the protected area to not dispose of their garbage in irresponsible ways, because they eventually get to the marine environment.
The corporation ensures that it remains compliant with national and international environmental policies, legislations, and regulations by conducting monthly and quarterly checks of all its facilities and attractions. This is to ensure that these facilities are constantly at the required standard for safe use by patrons.
So the UDC also sits on the Beaches Control Committee, as well as the National Council of Ocean and Coastal Zone Management Committee, both of which are responsible for creating national policies relating to the conservation of the coastal zone across Jamaica.
The Urban Development Corporation, achieving sustainable development within the corporation's designated areas by creating a balance between development and management of natural resources. A prime example is the soon-to-be implemented Goat Island Wildlife Sanctuary. To learn more about the work of the Urban Development Corporation, call 876-656-8031 or visit their website at udcja.com. You may also follow them on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, or visit their information center on the ground floor, Kingston Mall, downtown Kingston.
It was our own national hero, the Right Excellent Sam Sharp, an enslaved man and a freedom fighter who said, "I would rather die upon yonder gallows than live in slavery." That sentiment was also shared by many other slaves. But the fight for freedom and the hope for victory brought liberation to many. Right here in Jamaica, the movement to end slavery was very active, and landmarks across the island document this part of our history.
We are on the Emancipation Trail, and we're looking at the symbolic parts of Jamaica which relate to emancipation, a very important change of status in our country. We're here in the Filippo Baptist Church compound in Spanish Town. Spanish Town is a very old city, founded in 1539, I believe, and this particular site was where the Baptists created a congregation in 1818. And this church, built by the Baptists at the time of Reverend Filippo, was part of the congregation that was very supportive of the move to emancipate all enslavement. And that is a magnificent building going back probably close to 200 years. This church is very historic. right here under this tamarind tree, and identified by this plaque is the slave chains which were buried on August the 1st, 1838. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Deacon Ivan O'Connor, a member of this congregation, who is going to tell us some more about this very historic site and its relationship to emancipation.
I understand that part of the Declaration of Emancipation was read from the steps of this church. And a deep hole was dug right here, and all the chains that were available were put in there and covered. And a tamarind tree was put there as a monument. I understand that the first tamarind tree was destroyed by the 51 hurricane, but it was replaced. And it stands here now as a monument where people can come and get tamarind and remember the slavery chains.
And touch the monument as part of our experience
it is here
of
as a
what
reminder.
emancipation was all about.
Right.
But I also think we have to remind ourselves that the original official declaration was read from the steps of King's House,
That's
the facade which is still in front of the square.
That square is Emancipation Square, which is also in Spanish Town and just a few meters away from the Philippa Baptist Church. Here was once the town center. Other important buildings in the square include the old House of Assembly, Rodney's Memorial, and the old courthouse. The area was severely damaged by fire as well as the 1692 earthquake, but parts of the buildings have since been restored and put to use. Back over at the Philippa Baptist Church,
we want to reaffirm how important the Baptist movement and denomination was to emancipation. They were major players in persuading the English government to declare free at last, emancipation on the 1st of August, 1838.
And it is believed that the chains of slaves were buried at the Philippa Baptist Church due to its close proximity to Emancipation Square and the unrelenting movement by the Baptist Church to put an end to slavery.
Somebody said some time ago, how can we write the history of Jamaica without including the Baptists? The Baptists were one of the churches that were very integral to the teaching of the slaves and emancipation. James Philippo was one of the persons who was integral in getting emancipation for the slaves in Jamaica.
While emancipation was declared for slaves, their conditions were not improved. So the movement for a more just society was challenged by Paul Bogle and George William Gordon. They were also part of the Baptist movement and later became two of our national heroes. As a result of this involvement, Baptist work in Jamaica became an enduring symbol of the church's opposition to slavery and all other forms of injustice.
This building was put up sometime about 1827 thereabout and has been maintained over time. It's a natural heritage site, and so the National Heritage Trust has control over what happens here. Right after emancipation, James Philippo established free villages like in Sligoville, in parts of Clarendon, and also established churches. So this church is steeped in our history in Jamaica.
As we close today's show, we ask that you stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.